All right, Q1 is all wrapped up. We're here in April. And so this video is going to be a little bit longer. We're going to look at all the Q1 data now that we have it. We'll even compare it to the Q1 of 2025. So to start this, we're going to look at MLS data first, and we'll roll over to the Beacon report itself. First thing I want to show you right out of the MLS is the Q1 2026 final number of sales. 363 homes sold. Again, I use the same search criteria every single time. These are single family homes under an acre in Bend. I have sort of my own radius around Bend. So you'll see these numbers can vary a little bit as we look at different data. It depends on how exactly it is pulled. But 363 sales in Q1 of this year. If you take your eyes down there to the average sold price, $861,000. Median sales price, just about $695,000. Okay, so now we'll pull up that same chart for Q1 of 2025. Here you see 338 sales compared to the 363 we just looked at. And then average sales price, a little difference there. Average sales price this same time last year was $902,000 compared to the $861 right now. Median sales price $727 compared to the $695,000 we just looked at. All right, we'll continue on with the MLS data. Here's a pie chart showing us the number of sales and at what price point. I'm happy to see that we have 40 sales already this year, under 500,000 in Bend. That's great. Always positive to see more affordable homes coming on the market. And you can see that 500 to 600, 600 to 700,000, big bulk of the number of sales. One more piece of data out of the MLS. I've showed this to you, I think, the last few months. I run this every week. So here's a comparison of this current week compared to the same time last year. You can see active listings 447. Again, single family homes under an acre in Bend. This same time last year, we had 472. The inventory hasn't really picked up as quickly as I thought it would, but number of pending sales and number of sold homes over the last 30 days are both improved compared to last year. And then the last thing I'll point out, slide over there to the right, days on market, DOM at 40 for pending sales this current week. And this same time last year, 65. So the pace of the market is improving. Now we'll roll over to the Beacon report. The median home price dropped down to $688 from $725 last month. If you look back, March of last year was at $748. March of 2024, $753,000, and the median sales price in March of 2023 was at $685. Talking about the pace of the market picking up, the Beacon report reflects that as well, but even more dramatic. Median days on market, they're showing down to 18 for the month of March. So we took a pretty good nosedive there as the pace of the market really picked up. If we look back March of last year, we were looking at 32 was the median days, and then March in 2024, it was about 20. So definitely seeing a healthy increase in the pace of the market, and that correlates with the number of sales. We had a really strong March, 150 sales according to that Beacon report. Nice steady increase. Now keep in mind, we're going to get into interest rates. Obviously those have gone up. These homes that closed in the month of March, those are deals that went together in January or February, and that was before this global conflict really kicked off, likely before the interest rates went up. So to see that strong sales data for March, don't be surprised by that, because again, those deals were put together 30 or 60 days ago. All right, we'll roll into supply. With the number of sales happening and increasing, the months of supply hasn't really picked up as quickly as I thought it would. 3 months of supply here. This is the exact same number we had this same time last year. I still anticipate this will increase as we get into summer. Maybe the supply won't get up quite to 6 months if these homes are selling quickly and they're not sitting on the market. The last piece of Beacon data we'll take a look at is that conventional versus cash transaction number. 100 conventional transactions for the month of March. Again, these deals were put together in January and February before there was an increase in the interest rate. So I suspect this number will adjust down into April and to May, especially if rates remain elevated. Speaking of rates, here's our Freddie Mac chart showing that 15-year and 30-year fixed rate mortgage sitting at about 6.37. It's improved slightly over the last week or two. And to give us more of a broader perspective on these rates, I did two things. Here's that same chart looking back over the last 5 years. You can see that peak in mortgage rates in October of 2023, almost 8%. And then one more chart we'll transition into. Here's that 10-year trend. And you can see how they dropped down to almost record lows there in August of 2021. And the very last piece of data we'll talk about is inflation. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics, inflation went up 3.3. I think most of us has seen this, heard about this now in the news. I did the same thing here with inflation. Let's look back at the 5-year chart. You can see in June of 2022, inflation peaked a little over 9%. And then we'll take one more big picture look, 10 years. And you can see in 2020, extremely low as we were right in the heart of the pandemic. All right, so obviously there are a lot of things in play right now that we're all very well aware of, and how all this is going to impact inflation, our economy, mortgage rates, and thus the housing market. So far in Bend, we're seeing a positive trend in the number of sales. We're doing slightly better than we did this same time last year. Nationwide, though, I've seen some data reflecting that perhaps it's a slower year or very equivalent to what we had last year. And the important thing to remember there is the last 3 years nationwide, existing home sales are the lowest they've been since the mid-90s. It'll be really curious to see how all this unfolds, what happens to mortgage rates, and all of this data that we just went over, how that changes in the next 2 months as current buyers and sellers are dealing with this current environment, but we won't see those homes close until April and May. All right, that's all I have. Thanks as always for dropping in, and I'll talk to you next month.